actually the first foreign leader that I've had the privilege of welcoming here as Prime Minister. And there's a lot of great history here. In fact, this room that we're standing in, Winston Churchill made many of his famous speeches in World War II from this room. And in the same way today, your leadership, your country's bravery and fortitude are an inspiration to us all.
This is my video update from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Tuesday morning, May 16. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with the Duran report, which dropped yesterday. Finally, we got the Duran report into Trump-Russia collusion. And what did Duran find? Well, the Duran report found that the FBI failed in its responsibility to the public and never should have launched the Trump-Russia probe. This title from Zero Hedge reads, "The American public was scammed. Trump responds after bombshell Duran report exonerates." Wow. After extensive research, Special Counsel John Durham concludes the FBI never should have launched the Trump-Russia probe. In other words, the American public was scammed, just as it is being scammed right now by those who don't want to see greatness for America, Trump wrote on Truth Social. So, big shocker, really, really big shocker. The whole Trump-Russia, Russiagate collusion, Christopher Steele, Mueller report testimony, all of that stuff, impeachment, all of that stuff was one big hoax. Of course it was. We've been reporting on the Russiagate hoax on the Duran forever, it seems. And we understood from the very get-go that the whole thing was a complete hoax and a complete scam. And all of it was driven by Hillary Clinton and the Hillary Clinton campaign. And I wonder if the Washington Post and the New York Times and all the journalists who got those Pulitzer prizes for their reporting on Trump-Russia collusion and Russia election meddling and all that stuff, I wonder if they're going to be giving back their awards and prizes. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. And so my question is, what is going to happen now to all of the people involved in pushing this hoax? What happens to all of these people? What happens to all of these FBI agents that knowingly pushed this hoax on the American people, on the entire world? What happens to these people? Because a lot of these people involved in this hoax, they've been given cushy jobs at CNN or MSNBC. They've had book deals. It seems like they've done pretty well from this lie. So what happens to all of these people? Is anyone going to be held accountable for this hoax? Doubted. Absolutely doubted. And the whole Trump-Russia collusion, Russiagate hoax is one of the main reasons, not the main reason, but one of the main reasons we're in this mess in Ukraine. It's one of the reasons we have this conflict in Ukraine. It's one of the reasons why the United States, Republicans and Democrats, continue to escalate this proxy war with Russia, because they still have this false belief that Russia is meddling in the domestic affairs of the United States, or that Trump was or is some sort of Putin puppet. And that's one of the main narratives that we hear over and over again to justify the conflict in Ukraine and the U.S.'s involvement in this proxy war with Russia. And that's how sinister this Trump-Russia collusion, Russiagate hoax was. It has actually led us to this conflict in Ukraine. It was one of the factors that has pushed us towards a possible World War III scenario with Russia. And let's never forget that while the FBI and the Clinton campaign was pushing the Trump-Russia hoax, the Ukraine embassy in Washington and Ukrainian lobbyists were also pushing the Trump-Russia collusion fake news. We can never forget that Ukraine, at the time, was pushing very, very hard to get Hillary Clinton elected and to smear Donald Trump. Now, why would Ukraine be so active and so involved in trying to smear Donald Trump and get Hillary Clinton elected? Well, two reasons. The first reason is that you had Ukraine oligarchs donating a whole lot of money to the Clinton Foundation. Actually, I believe that Ukraine oligarchs were either the number one or the number two donors to the Clinton Foundation. They were pretty much up there with Saudi Arabia in their donations to the Clinton slush fund. So that's reason number one why they were pushing for Donald Trump to be smeared and why they were pushing so hard for Hillary Clinton to get elected in 2016. And another reason that I believe the Ukraine embassy, the government, the officials were pushing so hard to get Hillary Clinton elected is because back in 2016, the plan was for Hillary Clinton to become president and for this proxy war against Russia to be launched way back in 2016 during Hillary Clinton's first term as president of the United States, back when they probably felt Russia was in a more weakened state, especially economically, to take on the collective West. And so they probably thought if they can get Hillary Clinton in as president, then Hillary Clinton would absolutely move forward with some sort of provocation and conflict with Russia and goading Russia into some sort of conflict in Ukraine, where the United States and the EU would then be able to launch their economic sanctions. Shock and awe. You can hear my New York accent coming through back when I was a kid. Shock and awe sanctions towards Russia, which back in 2016, 2017, may have actually sunk the Russian economy, because Russia was probably not as prepared back then as they were now to deal with a full-on sanctions war aimed against them. So I think that one of the main reasons that the Ukraine oligarchy, the politicians, the elite, NATO, all of these forces were pushing for Hillary Clinton to be elected is because they felt that Hillary Clinton as president would have given them a very good chance to demolish the Russian economy and get some regime change in Moscow. Anyway, there are a lot of articles about the Durham report. Go read it. Even CNN, they had to admit that the Durham report was absolutely devastating to the FBI and to Hillary Clinton and the Clinton campaign. And even CNN had to admit that Trump has been vindicated. The question now is, are we going to get some accountability? Maybe some arrests. I don't know. It seems like that would be the next logical step, but I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. So let's talk about what's going on in Ukraine. And yesterday we had more Russian missile and drone strikes. The drones were hitting Kiev especially hard, and military authorities in the Zelensky regime, they actually said that the missiles that hit Kiev yesterday evening at like around 3 a.m. in the evening. They were exceptional in density. That is what the Ukraine military authorities said with regards to the missile strikes that hit Kiev yesterday. Exceptional in its density is the exact words that they used. So this is obviously this missile strike towards Kiev, which was exceptional in its density, is a clear indication that Russia is running out of missiles, right? Is that the narrative that we're going to get now from the collective West media? That this is proof that Russia is running out of missiles because they launched such a dense missile strike towards Kiev? I'm sure we're going to get that CNN title any minute now. And the worst part for the Elensky regime and for the collective West, and I guess for the U.S. taxpayer from yesterday's missile strike, is that we are getting reports that possibly, I'm not saying this is 100% fact, but possibly a Patriot air defense system was knocked out. Now, there's a lot of video floating around on the interwebs, on Telegram and on Twitter, which shows the Patriot air defense system in action, trying to shoot down these Russian Kinzhal missiles. And at one point in time after the Patriot defense system had shot off something like 30 missiles, or anyway, a large amount of missiles. I think the number that people are citing are 30. Yeah, 30 times. The Patriot missile shot to take down the Kinzhal. We see a Russian missile, what looks like to be a Russian missile, come right down and hit an area where the Patriot air defense system was shooting upwards towards the Russian missiles. And then you see an explosion, and that's it. And a lot of people are speculating, and this is just speculation, that the Russians took out a Patriot air defense system, which may be the purpose of this exceptionally dense missile strike into Kiev. The Russian military probably was focusing on taking out these Patriot air defense systems. If that is the case, and the Russian military has knocked out a Patriot air defense system, well, then that is very, very bad news for the Ukraine military and for the Elensky regime, and, as I said, for the U.S. taxpayer, who has sent their millions upon billions of tax dollars to the Elensky regime, to the Ukraine military, so that weapons can be purchased and homes for Elensky can be purchased, and at least the weapons are being systematically destroyed by the Russians on what appears to be a daily basis. Now, the homes, I don't know what's going on with all of Elensky's homes, but the U.S. taxpayer money that has been poured into weapons, it's been going up in smoke. So that is what happened yesterday in Kiev. And in France, after Macron met with Elensky, as Elensky is on his European tour, he was in France, and then he went on to the UK to meet with Sunak. Macron gave an interview to a French newspaper and to French TV as well. And in this interview with the newspaper L'Opinion, Macron said that, Macron claimed that Russia has already lost geopolitically. That is a direct quote. And Macron said that Moscow has de facto started a form of vassalization with regards to China and has lost access to the Baltic since it precipitated the Swedish and Finnish push to join NATO. Macron also added that such a turn of events would have been unthinkable even 2 years ago. So Macron said that Russia has lost geopolitically and he said that Russia is a vassal to China, and that Russia's actions in Ukraine has led to Sweden and Finland's push to join NATO. I guess you could say that the conflict in Ukraine also led to Sweden winning the Eurovision and Finland coming in second place. So, that's another talking point that Macron could have thrown out there: the Eurovision win for Sweden and second place for Finland. I don't think that's a coincidence that Sweden and Finland are on a NATO trajectory. Finland is already in NATO, and Sweden and Finland also won the Eurovision anyway. That is what Macron said in this interview. He also said that Moscow must not win the military war in Ukraine. He added that European security architecture would have to provide full security to Ukraine. However, it will have to envisage some non-confrontation with Russia and rebuild sustainable balances. But there are still a lot of steps to get to that. Macron also announced that he will be supplying Ukraine with long-range missiles, and he also said that Ukrainian pilots would be training on the F-16s now. He said right now, France will be training Ukrainian pilots, which means that we are moving ever closer to World War III. The minute we start seeing Ukraine and NATO, because it's not only going to be Ukrainian pilots flying those F-16s, it's going to be NATO pilots as well. But the minute we start seeing those F-16s in the air over Ukraine and attacking Russia, because that is what they are going to be doing, they're going to be trying to attack Crimea and Russia, we are entering into a World War III scenario. But Macron he's not bothered by these details. So that's what Macron said. He also told a French TV channel in an interview, he said, "We are not at war with Russia. This is not a war with the Russian Federation. We are helping Ukraine to resist, which means that we are not supplying weapons that could reach Russian territory or with which Russia could be attacked." So that's crazy Macron, the WEF puppet, talking about how Russia is a puppet to China. Once again, everything that these EU leaders say is just projection. Just replace their words about Russia with Ukraine, their words about Putin with Zelensky, and when Macron says that Russia is a vassal to China, just replace those words with France is a vassal to, and pick your globalist country or leader or ideology with that statement. France is a puppet to the Biden White House. France is a puppet to Victoria Nuland. France is a puppet to Ursula von der Crazy or the European Union, or France is a puppet to the WEF. Just choose your country, your ideology, or world leader, and you get to the heart of what Macron is actually admitting. And how are things going for Europe, given that Russia has lost geopolitically in this conflict? How are things going for the EU or for EU member states? Well, let's take a look at Germany. And a viewer of this channel sent me an interesting video report from German state media, which came out 6 days ago, which talks about how German small to medium-sized companies are packing up and leaving Germany due to high energy prices. The German Mittelstand, which are the small to medium-sized businesses in Germany, which make up the backbone of the German economy, they are either leaving Germany or they are selling their businesses. 25% of these German companies, according to this report, which is on YouTube, by the way. I'll put a link to this German state media report that is on YouTube down below in the description box. But according to this report, 25% of these small to medium-sized German enterprises have made up their mind to leave Germany, and 60% of these businesses are thinking of selling their company to foreigners. I imagine to U.S. or to Chinese investors. So things are not looking good for Germany and for Olaf Scholz, but no need to worry. This is something that more money to Elensky can easily cure and remedy. So that is why Olaf Scholz is going to give another 2.53 billion German taxpayer euros to Ukraine in order to solve the SME problem that Germany is facing. And Italy, they have recorded record historic debt levels. Historic debt levels coming from Italy. Italy's sovereign debt has continued to soar, jumping by 17.8 billion euros in March in monthly terms to hit a record high of 2.79 trillion euros, or roughly $3 trillion, according to the country's central bank. The previous all-time high was reached in February when debt amounted to 2.78 trillion euros. The Bank of Italy said on Monday that the surge was driven by an increase in the public sector's borrowing requirement of 31.3 billion euros. Soaring energy prices have exacerbated the cost of living crisis in the EU's third largest economy and have pushed up the level of public debt, which amounted to 144% of GDP between October and December 2022, according to the latest data from Eurostat. Italian officials have lashed out at the European Central Bank over its monetary policy, claiming that rate hikes aimed at taming inflation have piled more financial pressure on one of the Eurozone's most indebted countries. So 144% debt to GDP in Italy. What's Russia's debt to GDP? 16.9%. And why is Italy in this mess? Well, one of the reasons, interest rate hikes and energy prices, soaring energy prices. Why? Now, why are energy prices soaring? I just can't figure it out. Why are energy prices soaring? I don't know. I can't figure it out. But you know what, Meloni, Prime Minister Meloni, this can easily be solved by giving more money to Ukraine. So don't worry about it. People of Italy, don't worry about your economy crumbling. The way to solve a problem like this is to give more money to Elensky. That's how you solve these types of problems. And Politico, they are running an article with the title, Ukraine aid is drying up and the White House is under pressure to send more. The Pentagon could run out of money for weapons by mid-summer. Politico is reporting that U.S. aid for Ukraine could completely run out as early as mid-summer. Politico reported on Monday, citing sources familiar with the matter. That's as Washington has already spent most of the $48 billion aid package approved by Congress in December. According to Politico, the U.S. only has some $6 billion left to spend on arms and supplies for Kiev, meaning that American aid to Ukrainian forces could soon come to a halt. And a lot of Republicans, a majority of the Republicans, are freaking out because they're worried that money could run out for Ukraine. And all of the Democrats, the entirety of the Democrat Party, they are also freaking out because they don't want money to Ukraine to run out. They want to continue this proxy war with Russia. So they are urging the Biden White House to find a way to keep the money flowing to Ukraine, because as this Politico article points out, once the money to Ukraine dries up from the United States, then pretty much within 24 hours, the Elensky government collapses, the Elensky military collapses, and the proxy war with Russia is over. So that is what Politico is reporting. And Politico also makes it clear that whatever problems the Biden White House has at the moment with the U.S. debt ceiling, this should not and will not affect money going to Ukraine. So funding the Zelensky government and the Ukraine military is the number one priority for Republicans, for Democrats, and for the Biden White House. It's even more important than the debt ceiling and the national debt of $31 trillion and the risk of default. That's how important this proxy war for the United States has become. The U.S. is absolutely, completely bogged down in Ukraine, absolutely bogged down in this proxy war with Russia. So what about the Russian economy? Well, the Russian economy is doing pretty good. Even the EU had to admit that the Russian economy is doing pretty good, given the fact that the collective West has imposed something like 15 or 20,000 sanctions against Russia. This admission from the EU is pretty incredible. The EU improves the economic outlook for Russia. GDP contraction is expected to be much less than previously predicted. The European Commission has improved its outlook for Russia's economy in 2023 in its latest economic forecast published on Monday. According to the document, Russia's gross domestic product GDP is still expected to decline, but only by 0.9% compared to the 3.2% contraction the Commission predicted last fall. And the European Commission is actually predicting that in 2024, Russia is going to start to register growth. So 15, 20,000, 30,000 sanctions thrown at Russia, and the Russian economy is doing much better than many of the economies in the collective West. A debt to GDP ratio of like 16.9%, a small contraction of 0.9%, and growth in the following year. So Macron's statements that he made in the newspaper interview and the TV interview the other day are pretty much ridiculous, and I think we've debunked many of Macron's statements and claims about Russia losing this conflict geopolitically. Let's now talk about, should we do a clown world? Well, let's talk about Russia's isolation. Russia's isolation with Georgia, because Russia is so isolated now that Georgia will be resuming flights to Russia. This has been announced by the Georgian Civil Aviation Agency. Russian air carrier Azimuth Airlines has been granted permission to begin charter flights to Georgia. According to the aviation agency, 5 airline carriers have applied for flights from Georgia to Russia and from Russia to Georgia. Azimuth Airlines confirmed the development to TASS the other day, stating that sales of tickets have already begun. The first flight between Moscow and Tbilisi is slated for May the 19th, the company said. It will operate 1 flight on the route each day. This follows the lifting of visa restrictions from Russia to Georgia that Vladimir Putin announced a couple of days ago. So the visa restrictions have been lifted. Flights are now going to begin between Georgia and Russia, and this is proof of Russia's isolation on a geopolitical level, if you go by Macron's statements. Let's now do a clown world. And this clown world is is an Elensky Sunak special. That's what we'll call this Clown World segment. And Elensky, I think he was on the flight back to Kiev from the UK, and he decided to post a video. Now, I don't know why Elensky decides to post these Instagram, TikTok videos, but given the state that he's in, but he looks awful. I mean, he looks as high as a kite. Either that, or he's suffering from serious sleep deprivation, or I don't know. He needs some help. He needs an intervention or something, because he just does not look good as he's giving these as he's making these Instagram, TikTok videos. And in the video he made the other day, he talked about how Ukraine is going to enter NATO and Ukraine is going to enter the European Union, how his trip around Europe and meeting with the Pope was encouraging and it was successful. And he also said that Ukrainian will be one of the official languages of the EU, while he has difficulty speaking Ukrainian because Russian is his native language. Anyway, the guy is completely, he's out of it. He is completely out of it as he's making these videos. And when he was in Italy, he and I believe this was from an Italian talk show, Elensky said that during this talk show, he said that it will take a very long time to restore Crimea. Crimeans are Ukrainians, he said. We will have to work very hard to return everything that the Russians destroyed there. Restoration is impossible without Ukraine, but we can, and the Crimea will bloom again. Now, I don't know what Elensky was on, but it seems to me that the Russians in Crimea, the Russian citizens in Crimea, are very happy that they are Russian citizens and part of Russia. I don't know what he's talking about, all the destruction in Crimea. From what I understand, Crimea is absolutely prospering much more under Russia than it would have ever prospered under Ukraine. It seems like Crimea is doing very, very well. So I don't know what kind of nonsense Elensky was talking about during this panel interview talk show, but Elensky, he also told the people of Italy that they should start to prepare for conflict with Russia. This is what Elensky said. If war comes to Italy or to any other Western country, you should know that you will have to send your citizens, your sons and fathers, to fight this war. So I wonder how Italians are responding to Elensky's claim that Italian fathers and sons should prepare to fight with Russia. A very interesting statement from Elensky. And when he was in Germany, I forgot to mention this in my video yesterday, when he got his Charlemagne award, and he was talking about the evils that is Vladimir Putin, as he was giving his big speech. And I think that was next to Olaf Scholz. I think it was the Prime Minister of Poland, Morawiecki, sitting next to Olaf Scholz there in the background. But Zelensky was giving his speech, and he was talking about how the EU is going to defeat Putin. The Charlemagne Prize fell. It crashed onto the floor. I forgot to mention that in my video yesterday. Maybe that's a signal. I don't know. Maybe, just perhaps it's a signal. But Elensky, he picked up the prize and put it back up on the stand. But I don't know. Not a good omen, if you ask me. The Charlemagne Award falling to the ground, crashing to the ground, as Elensky talks about the defeat of Russia and the tribunal of Russian President Vladimir Putin. And finally, I'm going to end this clown world with probably the most cringe, I mean the most cringe video you have seen in one of the most cringe videos you're probably ever going to see. And it's 17 seconds of pure of pure cringe. Anyway, I'm losing my words here. Check out this video of Rishi Sunak awaiting Elensky's arrival. And the now famous photo of Elensky hugging Sunak was taken during this PR media debacle, is what I would call it, this PR media stunt. But it was a complete debacle. Check out this video. It is 17 seconds of absolute Rishi Sunak Elensky cringe. That's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. Go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.